That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are live, and what cuter way to go live than little Roman licking Issa right here on the podcast and Wrestling Inc. Dreams do come true. We are here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast after NXT. I am Alfred Konuwa at This Is Nasty, joined as always by our returning champion, NYC Demon Diva herself, Issa. What's going on?
Not much. I'm excited to talk about NXT tonight. There was a couple of things that I actually enjoyed.
Good, you and me both. I think this is a fun show, fun follow up. They're doing a big angle, so I'm sure a lot of people will
Yep.
have stuff to talk about. And we will get into it after we get through a few news items. WWE Raw last night with Logan Paul heavily featured and advertised on the show, appearing in the main event, did 1.765 million. That's 2% in total, up and then up 4% in 18 to 49. So considering that I was up against the home run derby, which does
Yep.
tend to hurt Raw. Like I was watching the home run derby, to be honest. It was actually pretty good. But WWE Raw held steady and actually was up a little bit with Logan Paul. What do you think about that?
I was impressed by the numbers, especially because of what you said, the home run derby. I was expecting them to maybe take a dip or not see an increase. The show was horrible. I don't know if you got to catch up with it, but it was a
Yes,
horrible
very
show.
long.
No effort was put into it. A lot of video packages, a lot of talking segments. So, I feel bad because if they got any new viewers to tune in for Logan Paul, they might not come back. Because
Yeah,
that was a very low effort show. And as somebody in the chat is mentioning, they're talking about being unhappy with the SummerSlam card, where you're not putting any effort in the shows building up to SummerSlam. So of course people are unhappy.
yeah, and let's talk about that. That's actually going to be our next story. Is that WWE is reportedly not happy with SummerSlam plans. WrestleVotes, who is a very reliable WWE insider, tweeted that they are not happy with their plans that they had come up with. What do you think about that, Issa?
Oh, I'm muted. I'm muted. That's what I am. I am not surprised by this because like I said, I don't feel like there's an effort being put into this. I think there's only two fresh matches. Everything else is a rematch from either WrestleMania or Money in the Bank. And the two fresh matches are technically speaking celebrity matches, right? The Pat McAfee against Baron Corbin and now Logan Paul against The Miz. Everything else seems to be a rematch. There's a lot of people in this roster that are not featured on SummerSlam that bothers me. Gunther should have a match, in my opinion, for the IC title. AJ Styles is in limbo right now. It's just, I don't know. It feels like it's WrestleMania backlash all over again.
Yeah, and it's felt like that for a while since WrestleMania. I feel like they've been very slow to come out of this funk to where they're doing the same matches, the same programs. I think
Yeah.
it's hurt the product overall that the world champion is just not on television. And so you're not really thinking of a world championship, and they haven't elevated any of the titles in its place to where it makes you excited about it. And I just think that the entire build for this card has kind of collapsed in some ways to where not a lot of these matches feel like they're this big deal. They're going to try, especially with Bianca and Becky. I think they did a good job starting, but none of these matches were matches that you saw coming from a mile away and thought this is going to culminate at SummerSlam, and I'll be very excited about it.
Yeah, agreed. First of all, don't you put this on Roman, Alfred? Don't you put this on Roman? But I really enjoyed the match between Becky and Bianca's WrestleMania. Really, really loved it. You know, I'm a big Becky fan, and I thought it was the right outcome. So when Bianca cut that promo yesterday, where she was like, "This is my SummerSlam comeback story," I was like, "No, sis, that was at WrestleMania. This is just a repeat of it." You know, I think they're gonna kill it in the ring because the last time we saw them, I thought they put on an excellent match, but I'm not invested. It feels like Becky Lynch has been number one contender since she came back. You know what I mean? Like, and there's so many people featured on 24/7. You know, segments that are not on the card. So
Yeah.
it's a mess. We'll see what happens after SummerSlam. I do know maybe things didn't go their way with injury. Maybe they had a bigger role for Cody Rhodes and that didn't work out. Oh, I do think that Seth and Riddle are gonna kill it, but we have seen that match before. That's another rematch. But I do think they're gonna put on a great match.
Me too. I have no question about the in-ring product. I think it's going to be a fun live show to watch. But a big part of the reason that it is a SummerSlam is that you want those big stories and angles, and they just don't feel like they're there, and they don't have a lot of time to get there. You know, this is kind of like a WrestleMania card that they treat it like, and so to be this slow at really building up
Yeah.
to a match is kind of concerning for SummerSlam.
Yeah, it feels like the big four is just narrowed down to the big two. Now it feels Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. After that, all the pay-per-views don't feel like that much effort goes into them.
Yeah, I do think they were trying to make this into a big show, but they have been hurt with injuries, and they have just such a small amount of people that they really trust and want to go back to that you're just going to see the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Robert Martinez for $1.99 says we need to adopt wins and losses for fresh matchup.
I mean, maybe.
Oh, I think, what is he like saying, counting wins and losses, or?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, because I'm very vocal about AEW and the ranking system, how they choose when it matters and when it doesn't matter. Like, if you're gonna do a ranking system, then you really need to stick to it. It feels like AEW is doing it. And I was very excited that they were gonna count win and losses, because I do think they should matter, but it feels like they only come into play when it's convenient for them, not on a weekly basis the way that it should be.
Yes, and finally, speaking of AEW, Kenny Omega, it looks like he is reportedly on track to come back at All Out, joining the Young Bucks as part of a trios division. Does this excite you more than the prospect of Young Bucks versus FTR, which is where it seemed it was going?
Yeah, I miss Kenny Omega. But I don't know that it'll excite me more, because I think Kenny Omega is great as a singles. I don't want to see him in a trio storyline and win trios title. I think Kenny Omega could go right back to the top of the card where he was. So yeah, I would like to see FTR and the Young Bucks, run it one more time. But as long as Kenny Omega's back, AEW is really suffering. A lot of their big hitters are out. Granted that they have the roster to where you don't feel that absence, which that makes me very happy for them. But it's time for one big name to make a comeback. So I'm excited to see Kenny Omega come back.
Yeah, it should be good. And I would like this more if they did introduce a trios championship, because if you want to get it off to a hot start as an important title in this company with a sea of titles, then Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks kind of being a main event act with that title is going to really help it mean something until they, because there's a lot of potentially good trios.
They've been together since day one, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so that should be fun. We've got a friend of the show, Steven Marcucci, who says 4 NXT women that could reach Horseman level of success. Will Rock versus Roman Reigns involve a title? Okay, so 4 NXT Horsewomen modern day. Who do you think that is, Isa?
I really like Tiffany Stratton. I like Nikita Lyons. I like Ivy Nile. And I like Elektra Lopez. Those are my 4 favorite contenders in NXT right now. So I'm going to say them, if booked the right way, of course. And Rock versus Roman, it shouldn't involve a title. I don't know. I love Roman. He's my favorite. Everybody knows it. But this unifying of the title has just gone downhill for everybody. And if he can't be there, then I'd rather not have a title involved and make him a special, when he shows up, is special with or without a title. So it's The Rock. We don't need a title. No.
Yeah, and I don't think it needs a title at all. I think it's just a match that obviously sells itself. I think you would complicate things by involving a title, and people just look at The Rock's schedule, and let's just have this be about the family. It doesn't have to be for the title, and you're going to hold the title hostage as an albatross if they continue to do that. Now, when it comes to the 4 horsewomen, I would say in terms of the top 4 that I think that WWE could build around, I would say Tiffany Stratton, Nikita Lyons. I like Roxanne Perez. I think that's just a wild card. And then it seems like they're really into Cora Jade. I feel like that they're really going to build around her. I don't know if I'd accept that, but I could see her going pretty far. And I actually liked her work as a heel, actually, tonight, as we'll get into briefly. Stellar Justin Lopez for $4.99. I finally saw that Flair video. Which one? Because it's a wild. Flair's out these Twitter streets. Wow!
Oh my God.
That was amazing and embarrassing at the same time. It's like De Niro and the Irishman trying to get that. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, that comparison is so on point.
I love it. It is Irishman, and hopefully he moves faster than the amount of time that it took to watch the Irishman, because he's not looking.
He's not gonna move fast. He's not gonna move faster than what it took to watch it. I still haven't finished the Irishman, honestly. But yeah, it's fascinating though. Don't you think, Alfred? This whole Ric Flair's last match, the build up to it. I am gonna be there covering it live, so
yes.
I'll have all the tea from the streets. Will report to Alfred that week. It's gonna be me. I'm the streets.
I love it. 100%. We can't review our sources, Issa. She's just kidding. But no, thanks for those tips. I really appreciate it always. And I've gotten roped in, Issa. Early on, it was just one of these things that I tried to avoid. And obviously, I just kept abreast of it just so I know what was going on. But I'm just fascinated. I'm going to watch. I'm going to cover it, and hopefully everything goes well. Right now, I've got an article on Forbes about the betting odds that they're taking odds on who's going to bleed first, which seems wild.
But the color of the robe, incredible. Listen, Ric Flair has an appearance booked in Puerto Rico on August 6th. Now, I'm pretty sure he'll get involved. It's not a match. He's going to be managing Andrade. Andrade has a match here. So I need him to come out of this safe and sound because I would love to be able to interview him when he comes to Puerto Rico. So
100%. I hope everybody gets out of this match safe and sound. I hope they know exactly what they're doing. And
who are you to tell me how to wrestle?
I mean, Ric Flair is bleeding like crazy in this thing. He's just like, it's like he's reading all this stuff about how dangerous this is. He's like, I'll show you dangerous. And he is, man with a pacemaker, by the way.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I listen. I'm going to light a couple of candles.
As a great man once said, for the love of the game, just remember that. The Tornado Anthony Y coming for Issa. Roman can go to the movies, won't be missed. You take it from here, Issa.
I mean, he won't be missed by you, but he will be missed. Needle mover.
Yes, I would miss Roman Reigns, and so would you, Anthony. The Tornado, even though Roman Reigns is no match for the Tornado, we still need Roman Reigns in our lives.
It's the only star they managed to build in the last 5-6 years. You can't have WWE without him right now. Because I know a lot of people are going to root for Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes came built from elsewhere. Roman Reigns has been the only thing they have managed to build and do something with. And somehow they sabotage it, right? Like you managed to put him up here. Everybody's loving it. Everybody's praising him. Then you unify the title and make him disappear. And it's just like, why?
Can WWE and AEW just share joint custody over who built Cody Rhodes? Because I've heard both ways where both can take credit. Part of him being a star on the Indies was him coming from WWE and having that kind of Rhodes legacy and being able to use those connections. But also he was built as a TV star in AEW. But I do think it was a combination of both. That one doesn't happen without the other.
Listen, Alfred, don't get me started on this topic because I've been wanting to do a debate on it on my channel. So if you want to come and you can take the AEW side and I'll take the WWE side because I do agree with you. I do agree. But I personally think he came built from AEW, but I didn't enjoy him in AEW at all. And in WWE, I am loving everything that he's doing. So it's a weird debate that people can probably have for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of like chicken or the egg because they're using the AEW version of Cody Rhodes in WWE essentially, but part of him getting over, that origin story does not get told without what he did in WWE. And he had some fire angles in WWE. I covered one of them in Battleground 2013 on Pro Wrestling Bits Under the Shorts.
I did like Stardust too, by the way. I know Cody Rhodes don't want to talk about it. We don't know Stardust anymore, but I like Stardust.
Yeah. Stardust, it was very avant-garde. Let's just put it that way.
I know.
Didn't always hit, but sometimes it was very funny. But let's get into NXT tonight. We had all kinds of fun angles going on throughout the show.
Yep.
But we opened with a wrestling match between Cameron Grimes and JD McDonough. So the announcers are really putting over that Cameron Grimes is lost. He's in a slump. He hasn't won very many matches recently. Joe Gacy's looking on from the shadows like a vulture, and Cameron Grimes gets his foot caught in the ropes. This is actually a very good match. Toward the end, they're getting a "this is awesome" chance, but after getting his foot caught, JD McDonough hits his finisher, which is like a ripcord belly to back, and he wins the match. And following the match, later on in the show, Grimes goes full Christian Bale and just has a complete meltdown on the interviewer. Does not want to talk about his losing streak, Issa.
The match itself was incredible. I absolutely hate JD's haircut. I think we need to do something about it. It's questionable. Like, he probably not allowed in the barber shop, but I don't know. Carmelo Hayes should just cut him a break and let him in there once and fix it. The match was great. I am getting to it later. I'm tired of Cameron Grimes whining. You lost. You're on a losing streak. Suck it up. Put your big boy panties on and fucking fight. Like, crying about it backstage is not going to change the fact. Like, I don't understand. And is he rich anymore? Maybe he's having a breakdown because he's no longer rich and he's just not addressing it. I feel like something else is going on in this man's life. He's whining like a little bitch every week. It's getting tiring.
He can't no-sell his bank account after his entire persona was built around it. It can't just go away. Where'd that money go, Cameron?
Yeah, like, shouldn't you be happy because you have all this money?
Well, if he is doing the cryptocurrency gimmick, which this is a story they need to tell, cryptocurrency just took a complete bath. He probably
Yep.
legit would be broke, but there's a story to be told as to him being broke, but they're just completely ignoring this. It's two characters that were promising that WWE completely ditch. I want no part of Cameron Grimes and Joe Gacy together in any capacity. Who cares? But the millionaire Cameron Grimes with cryptocurrency against the super woke Joe Gacy. I mean, he could have said cryptocurrency is bad for the environment. This is capitalism. Now you got all kinds of things you could have done in terms of telling stories. Now I don't care.
Yeah, same. I don't care either, and I just don't find this Cameron Grimes compelling or underdog story. No, you lost. You keep losing clean. Great matches. I mean, he's putting on some really good matches, but you're losing clean. So just get over it and get to the back of the line, and you know how it goes.
Does Cameron Grimes shave his face if he joins Joe Gacy?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think so too. We'll get into why later. But before then, we saw the friend of the show, Cora Jade, walks out to the arena. She's a heel now. She cuts a promo about how she used to be the darling of NXT, essentially. And then, of course, Roxanne Perez stole it. She said that the title represents a lie. She's getting slight STFU chants. And she then throws the NXT Women's Tag Team title into the trash can. So I thought that this angle accomplished what it needed to, but for such a big angle that they ran last week, Issa, I don't know if you agree, but I didn't feel like this got very much heat.
No, because it's very hard to buy Cora Jade as a heel. I know you said you liked her work, but I didn't. I didn't like the promo. I didn't like the tossing of the title in the trash is probably just a deeper issue with me just because of what they're doing with the main roster stacking titles. And now you do this in NXT, and it's just like you're literally throwing in our faces that these women's tag team championships mean absolutely nothing to WWE in NXT or WWE. And if you were gonna go in this route, then why put the belts on them? Then keep them on Toxic Attraction, and like that could have been what caused some kind of heat between them. I don't know. I didn't like the throwing of the title in the trash, but again, it's because of what we know is going on with the other tag team titles. They're probably in a trash can somewhere too. I have a hard time.
No, they're in a trash bag, Issa.
Oh, ooh, I see what you did there. I have a hard time buying her as a heel. I don't know. She feels very mean girl from high school. You know what I mean? I need her to put a little more. I don't know. Her reasoning made no sense. Also, she won the tag team titles, and I wanted to make these titles feel like the most important thing in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and trash them. Like, first of all, that doesn't make any sense. Second of all, if Roxy knows how they book the tag team titles, yeah, I will go for the main title too, because she knows she didn't get shit by winning that title. So she won the tournament. She earned her right to cash in. So this is something that Cora should have not been all up in her feelings about it. But I don't know. I have a hard time buying her as a heel. But she tried, and she was getting a little bit of heat. But like you said, for such a big angle, she didn't get. You know what got heat out of this was the skateboard breaking before she hit Roxanne with it. That's what got the real heat in this.
She needed that skateboard. I didn't think that she was all that bad. I'm not going to say this is perfect, but compared to how she was as a babyface, I just felt like she was much more comfortable in this role. I didn't feel like the fans were into it because they didn't give them a chance to get invested in the storyline. I wouldn't blame Cora entirely. I would just say that they sped this thing up. They didn't give these women enough time together to create any type of natural bond that people can care about. They split immediately after they won these tag team titles. And so now it's like you expect these people to care about the reasoning and all that goes into it. You're just kind of force feeding anything. And it just looks like WWE just following the main roster cues. I think this signals that they've given up on those main roster tag team titles, because if they don't have tag team titles for the women on the main roster, what's the use of having them in NXT? And if that's the end of this era, what a failed era in terms of tag team wrestling in WWE among women across the entire board. I mean, they've done a good job with a lot of these women's titles. These tag team titles were horribly booked.
Yeah, but it's sad because we're also in an era where you have so many talented women in all of your rosters to where these tag team titles could be something. I was a fan of creating a mid-card title for the women more than a tag team belts both times where they made them in NXT and the main
Mm-hmm.
roster. I thought a mid-card title would make more sense. And obviously, AEW made it work with the TBS championship. But regardless, you have so many women that are not doing anything right now that you would think this is the time that these tag team championships will really mean a lot. I will say, though, they never needed to create the NXT ones. They should have kept them to where they were traveling between brands, just one set of tag team championships.
Yeah, that could have absolutely worked. But if they were committed to the NXT tag team titles as much as they were committed to the WWE tag team titles, it wouldn't really make a difference because either way, it just seemed like they were never a priority. And so they're just going to be throwing them in the trash can. Listen, we cannot confirm 100% that they're done. But in wrestling lore, you throw a title in a trash can, that thing is done. Unless they're doing some comedy angle where Winnie Chu fetches it out of the trash can or something. But these things look like they're done.
Yeah, agreed.
Also confirmed, this did get a little bit of heat, but again, they really didn't react to this. She just kind of threw away, announced, yeah, that's right. I was the one who attacked Roxanne Perez.
Yeah. Oh. How did she not see? We needed to see some kind of angle. Like, they didn't even show a video how she pulled it off without Roxanne knowing who she was. Like, I need more than that. Like, her just saying, yeah, I did it. It's just like, okay, how? You're her best friend. Were you wearing a mask? How did it happen? How did she not know it was you? So, yeah, that bothered me.
They're just sprinting through this feud. We're going to get... I like the idea of a secondary women's championship. They should really have that because that's really what a two-title system is on the main roster. So they should have a second championship. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see that.
So it looks like we're getting Zion Quinn versus Apollo Crews next week. And then we get... Listen, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but we get to what I felt was the star of the show. Never thought I'd hear myself say this. Roderick Strong, ladies and gentlemen, was the best part of this show. He's facing off against Damon Kemp. And early in their match, Tony D, the GOAT, comes on screen and they're just beating the crap out of the 4-on-2, assaulting the Creed brothers. And Tony D lets him know and he says, the only diamond that's forever is Tony D. So Tony D letting everybody know. Damon Kemp goes to try to help the Creed brothers, but Roderick Strong stops him, hits his finisher, the knee to the face, and he pins Damon Kemp and celebrates like he's just won the Super Bowl. I was dying at this angle. And this is just a beating. But what did you think about the match and this first part with Tony D versus Roderick Strong and the Diamond Mine?
I thought it was so funny. I'm with you. I was like, what is happening? And even later backstage, we'll get into it. Roderick Strong was hilariously annoying tonight, right? Yes. I thought the match was okay. I still don't understand. Are they a family? I guess they are because they fight a lot and real families keep it real like that. But I'm so confused about what's going on with Diamond Mine. They seem like so all over the place. I don't even know if I missed NXT last week and I feel like I was like completely out of it. I'm like, wait, why are they fighting? Are they together? I love seeing Tony D come out. Tony D is not scared of nobody. So yeah, this was confusing, but Roderick Strong, he just wants to get some wins. He don't care what it takes. He don't care what's gonna happen. He just wants to win every match. Good for him.
Yeah, and you should be confused, really, Issa, because you're in the dark like me in terms of what happened with the Diamond Mine. It just seems like they've been put back to life. Like they were completely a non-entity. I didn't think they were doing much with this split. They were just really teasing it, and Roderick Strong was just moping around. But Roderick Strong has kind of figured out a character to this manipulative, spoiled brat character of a coach where he's taking advantage of them now. If they could stretch this out, then I'm going to care about the Diamond Mine all over again.
Yeah. When they did the backstage segment later on, I was like, why am I enjoying this right now?
We're getting right into this. We're dedicating the next couple of minutes to this segment because a lot happened with the Diamond Mine and the Tony D's family to where Roderick Strong goes to the back. We're only getting started with Roderick. So he's yelling at the Creed brothers for getting beat up. He's gaslighting them. Gaslighting Roderick Strong is saying, you guys shouldn't get beat up by 4 guys. It's 2-on-4. I don't care. And then so they're yelling. Damon Kemp shows up and he's late because he was knocked out. And Roderick turns to him and he goes,
what took you so long?
What took you so long? And he starts going full Tiffany Stratton. He goes, everybody needs to listen to me. This guy was like 90s heel Chris Jericho. I don't know where this came from. I give him a hard time on this podcast. We called him Mr. Charisma and never had a history of being a great talker, but just one of those great workers. But I never thought there was much more of a dimension to him. But this Roderick Strong, if not for one night, was amazing tonight, I thought.
I love this segment. This was my favorite thing out of everything that Roderick Strong did tonight. And like you said, that's what I was telling you. I was excited to talk about it because I enjoyed it. I love the way he yelled at him. So like, took you so long. I died laughing. Literally laughed out loud. Like, bro, you just beat him up. He was like, "What a family!" Blah blah. Blah. And it just really, I enjoyed it. I know that he's gaslighting them and he's manipulating them and whatever methods work to keep his Diamond Mine family together, he's gonna execute these methods. But this is the best Roderick Strong that we've seen in weeks.
Yeah, and what took you so long is so funny because not only was it because he beat him, but he stopped him. He literally obstructed him from helping the guys and then manipulated it to make it look like, no, I was here for you guys. He's gaslighting Roderick Strong is the best version.
Oh my God, I'm here for it.
I love it. Allison Tuckwop for $1.99. I thought W was going to drop PG. Well, that's imminent. Who knows when it's going to happen, but it looks like don't expect too many changes. We're going to get a couple of more cuss words. I don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, NXT is TV 14, and I mean, it's horny sometimes, but not a lot have changed from it.
Yeah, and before we move on from this, there was one more segment from Roderick Strong and the Diamond Mine. I thought this was amazing. This seemed like a promo they just all did in one take because it wasn't necessarily perfect, but they all just like went crazy. Like the Creed brothers saying it's on site. Roderick Strong saying that Diamond Mine's the best family. You guys aren't even a real family. And they accept the challenge. They throw out a challenge. Tony D accepts. It looks like we're getting the Roderick Strong and the Diamond Mine against Tony D. And I'm here for it, Issa.
Me too. Even the Creed brothers were so entertaining in this backstage interview where he was like, "Put the camera on me. I'm not finished." I was like, where did these guys come from? Like, Diamond Mine hasn't felt interesting in a long, long time. And somehow they did something tonight that managed to bring some life back to this gimmick. So hopefully we continue with this because I really, really enjoyed Roderick Strong and this. I feel bad because they're taking on Tony D. And that's a mistake, But good for them for being an entertaining part of NXT tonight. I really enjoyed it.
It's part them, it's part Tony D, because anybody he works with has to be elevated to work with the GOAT. So a rising boat, lift all tides.
Yeah, but I mean, do you want to see gaslighting Roderick Strong end up with the fish?
I don't. I need him to not gaslight so much to where it gets him caught up in these streets. But, rising tide lifts all boats.
I have a bad feeling.
I'm very nervous for him, but I think this should be Tony D'Angelo's gimmick, is where he just goes around colonizing everybody's families to where family, now you got to work for him, and he creates like a little Mongolia,
Oh, I like that. Everybody that he beats has to become a D'Angelo.
And then guess what? They all join together and they challenge the bloodline for ultimate supremacy.
Okay, that's enough. You got carried away there, Alfred.
What do you think? Who wins in a family war? The
I'm
bloodline?
not going to get into this.
Okay, well.
I'm going to get into that.
It's an interesting conversation. Okay, so we move on from the Roderick Strong. Again, they did such a great job, these guys.
Wait, has Tony D faced Solo Sikoa?
I think he has. I think they had a match. I think it was months ago.
I was going to say, that's how you get to the bloodline. He's like, if I beat you, you got to become part of my family. And then he shows up with his family.
Yeah. See? I'm telling you. That's a great way to introduce the bloodline versus Tony D.
Yep.
Pretty Deadly versus Briggs and Jensen. They have a nice little match. Pretty Deadly's dressed as cows. These guys are great.
They stole my SummerSlam fit. That's exactly what I was going to wear to SummerSlam. Alfred, I'm going to have to find a whole new outfit.
Hype beasts. They're swagger jackers is what they are, Issa.
I'm so mad at them, but they looked incredible.
But the match comes to a screeching halt where Elton Prince bumps Fallon Henley, so they go to break. And then she shows up and plays tug of war with Kit Wilson with the titles. That leads to finish from Brooks and Jensen. And Brooks and Jensen retain the NXT UK titles.
Erroneous. I was rooting for Pretty Deadly here. I don't understand why these guys are the UK champions. I think Pretty Deadly makes more sense as the UK champions. But obviously, I'm a big Pretty Deadly fan. So I thought the match was great. I love the fits. I love the outfits. I need to see more Pretty Deadly on NXT, like feature more than that. We need like 3 backstage segments with them, like we did with Roderick Strong.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a lot of fun. And I like that they're bringing these titles and these NXT UK guys, but I mean, there's always all these changes in WWE, and if I'm in NXT UK and I'm seeing all these wrestlers and titles going over to NXT, I would just be a little nervous. I know nothing, but the way WWE springs these things on them.
Yeah, but I'm critical of AEW when they do it. I'm gonna do it here. It's like when AEW brings up someone and they get a title shot because they've been doing very good on Dark. You don't know who they are because nobody's watching those shows, right?
Yeah.
So not everybody's watching NXT UK. I personally barely even knows when it airs. So like, when you bring people from NXT UK, like I mean, they did a decent job with a few of them with video packages or this and that, but it's hard to become invested even though they are a big deal. Like maybe interview them backstage and showcase some of the matches that they've had. You know what I mean? Like do something to make us go, oh, this person is a big deal.
And you mentioned being hard to invest in. That brings us to Joe Gacy,
Oh God.
who does a big unmasking reveal. They are the Grizzled
Wait.
Young Vets.
I
Oh,
missed
yeah.
I
Oh, you
missed
did?
that.
Oh, wait until you hear this. Girl! Okay, I'll spill that tea. They
Okay.
did big unmasking. It was backstage, which is kind of weird, but now seeing how they did it, I see why they did it backstage. But this also could have been a lot of fun live. So they have them in the hoods, and he's rechristened them. They unmask. It is the Grizzled Young Vets. At no point do they mention those names. They show them with their beards, and then they fast forward, and both of their faces are clean shaven. The one with long hair has long hair still, but he's clean. The bald guy looks like a completely different human being, and they've got contacts in there. And they both kind of actually look like who's the old guy, Parker Boudreaux, whoever his character was.
Oh yeah.
The bald guy kind of looks like a skinny version of him. But they do the purification, and their new names: Jagger Reed and Rip Fowler. So that's your new druids.
What? What are the names?
Jagger Reed and Rip Fowler.
First of all, now your question about Cameron Grimes shaving his face earlier in the night makes a lot more sense because when you asked me that, I'm like, yeah, okay, he shaves his face. I don't know, it all comes together. I don't even know how I missed that segment. It must be because the All-Star game is also on. But anyways, I kind of suspected it was the Grizzly Young Vets. I think a lot of people suspected that because they've been missing in action. Changing the names is weird. I mean, we'll see where it goes, but putting them with Joe Gacy is almost like a kiss of death because I don't even think that a lot of people are invested into whatever Joe Gacy is doing.
Yeah, the only positive coming out of this is at least the Grizzled Young Vets can wrestle their actual wrestling style without being draped in those.
I like the Druids outfits.
I didn't like the Druids matches.
If you get rid of, like, if you happen to, like, these people leave the company, you can just replace them and nobody needs to know.
Yeah, that's the thing that they're giving up. There's a lot of cost savings that can go on with these Druids.
Yeah.
Schism, of course, is the group that they keep calling them. And yes, his name is Harlan. It was the dearly departed. But he's in AEW now. Apparently, they're very excited about it. They're fired up about Harlan over in Jacksonville, Issa.
Wow. That's good. Good for him.
Yes, let's see if that can translate. We have a backstage promo from Wesley. He's just talking about how he wants to fight Grayson Waller, and it ends with a high five, so we know he's a babyface.
Yep.
And then we get into the friend of the show, Braun Breaker, Issa's favorite wrestler. He wants to fight JD McDonough, Issa. And then we cut to JD McDonough backstage. Man, he's drawing on this mannequin's shoulder with a Sharpie. And I think this mannequin had more charisma than JD McDonough because he is just like, he's like sleepwalking through this promo. I don't know if they told him to deliver the lines like this, but he's got this really slow, creepy delivery.
Yeah.
He's talking about
wrestling.
And, Braun Breaker had this line about, if you can't find your balls, take one of them to the mannequin.
I know!
And like the joke landed, and he looked like he was so surprised. He was like celebrating. He was like, oh, yeah, I did that shit. I did that.
Wait, can you please make the sound effect again? I'm gonna clip you. I'm gonna use you as a sound clip for my streams. That was perfect. I gotta tell you something. 2 things that Braun Breaker said hit with me tonight. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of his promo, but that balls joke was incredible. And then he said, if you're gonna rip my shoulder off, do it, and then I'm gonna take it from you and beat you with it. And I'm like, oh. This JD's promo felt very plastic surgeon office. That's all I could think about when he was drawing on the mannequin. All I could think about is somebody visiting the plastic surgeon and getting drawn on, like all the shit that's wrong with you. I enjoy Braun Breaker here. and that is a first, especially
Wow.
promo wise. I think he's great on the in the ring. I think he's very talented, but I have never been able to get invested in him. But maybe it's the fact that JD was just so dead and delivering this promo so like lackluster that it just makes like the intensity of Braun Breaker was like on 100 compared to what JD was doing on the other side. So I personally really enjoyed this promo from Braun Breaker, and I love when the joke hit and he got even more intense because he really made him feel like he's gonna kick this kid's ass.
No, I thought Braun Breaker was great. I liked his fire. I do like his style. Once he kind of figures it out on the mic, he's gonna be really good at cutting that pro wrestling type promo. And I just think he carried this segment, which, to your point, I think that is because by comparison, he just seems so much more lively. And I really do think this is part of the JD character in terms of
because he's trying to seem like super collective and like even somebody just said it on the chat, like horror movie villain, kind of like Jigsaw, I want to play a game kind of thing. Like I get that, especially I'm a big horror movie geek, but it was just the difference in between the intensity between the two of them that for me really made Braun Breaker stand out, and he needed that. Maybe that's why they're doing this. It was a very easy I'm gonna kick your ass promo, and that's exactly what you should be doing with Braun Breaker, because he looks the part. So just have him come out there and say he's gonna kick somebody's ass and make it short and simple, and he did that tonight.
Yeah, and so hopefully they figure something out with this JD McDonough character, because
a haircut would be great. A haircut would be a great start.
And I like your idea of him going to the barbershop. I think they'd line him up. I think he'd get a nice fade.
I also need somebody to put the mannequin on an All Elite graphic.
Oh, you better jump on that meme after this podcast.
I'm sure somebody watching will do it and tweet it at us.
That's amazing. We get Von Wagner takes it to the street. He said Von Wagner goes on the streets and destroys Solo Sikoa. He's the new king of the streets.
Listen, I'm here for Von Wagner and Solo Sikoa just constantly fighting, not doing anything else, but constantly fighting each other everywhere they go. Why were they at SmackDown? That threw me off, because they were like, "Oh, this happened last Friday," and I'm like, "Friday? What does Friday have to do with NXT?" It's interesting though to plant the seed of Solo Sikoa being a SmackDown. That's what I picked up on here, and then Braun Breaker was the least subtle attack I ever seen, because he's so big he just comes out running like
yeah.
But I like the physicality that these two are showing, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna put them on some kind of no DQ street fight, whatever it is. It's gonna be intense. Von Wagner, when he's beating people off or yeeting people off the ring or whatever, I don't hate him. It's every time he talks.
Yeah, and you know what? You actually kind of gave me a bit of an idea in terms of them fighting, because I too like when they are always fighting. That'd be a good way to call them up in terms of that's the gimmick, is they don't really have any matches or anything like that, but they're just brawling through NXT. One night they just brawl through the crowd on a SmackDown. They do it on Raw, and they just keep this going where that's just all they're doing, and they eventually just become famous for being these two guys who are always fighting each other.
Listen, I wouldn't be mad at that.
Have, like, on the bump, you could have them brawl into the bump,
like like Peter Griffin and the Chicken, remember, like something like that.
Yeah, exactly like that. Then you go to AEW and brawl.
Ring of Honor this weekend.
Let's go.
Ric Flair's last match.
I mean, the possibilities are endless. This is the gimmick right here. They just fight everywhere.
This is it.
Oh my God, that is amazing. So we get okay, so we're pretty deadly. We got past that, and Braun Breaker, we just did. Okay, Axiom, they had a showcase match for him against Dante Chen. He's a striker. Like striking.
Great.
A lot of high-flying strikes.
That's great. Strikes. What does that have to do with the math? Isn't he like a math something? I don't know. They were talking about how he going to use his like smarts to win the match, but he was just striking this dude. So I was like, you don't need to be smart when you can strike like that.
Yeah. They didn't now that I think about it, they didn't tie those together really at all.
No, not at all. Well, don't get me started on the freaking QR codes and what the QR codes were, because that also had nothing to do with each other. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah, I felt like they were talking about how his gimmick is that he's going to outsmart people in the ring because he's not the biggest. And then you have him debut against somebody that he was actually bigger than. So it didn't make a lot of sense, but it was a nice showcase. I'm always a fan of a masked wrestler, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, and we go from that to Vici has this selfie segment, and Chase U comes off the bus. It looks like they actually were in the United Kingdom last week, so that sounds like a lot of fun for them.
Yeah, good for them. I wanna do something with Tracy. I don't know what I'm gonna teach a class or something there.
And also shout out to Flixbus, which got some free promo on this
I
broadcast.
know. I was
I've
like,
taken a lot of
I thought it was like a mistake. I thought that the boss maybe was like going by when they were filming the what's
yeah.
his name?
Brody.
Giovanni. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
Vinci.
was
Oh,
like,
Vinci,
why
yes.
is why is this boss in the background when the boss showed up in the Vinci, segment? And no, it was Chase U.
Yeah. So looks like they're doing something with Vinci and Chase U. And
Yeah.
we get into the barbershop segment. Listen,
Wait, before you get to the barber shop, what do you think of him not taking the selfie with the girl?
that was funny. I thought that was
I
a funny
know.
open. It was very
When she
subtle.
was like, "Can I get a photo?" And he's like, "Sure." He just takes a picture of himself. That was hilarious.
And then it was really funny. And then like she goes, "No, I'm not with you." And he's like, "No, not you."
And when the Chase U girl tried to touch the car, he was like, "No fingerprints." I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm liking this character.
He did a very good job. He was very funny tonight.
Yeah.
There was the barbershop segment was they were just taking some shots, and I really did like both of their interplay and delivery. This really should be regular. I think this is a really good way of they feel very comfortable in that setting, and it feels very natural. It doesn't feel like anything else in the show.
Forced.
Yes, it does feel like just two guys hyping each other up. Just like all these guys get around each other and they're just hyping each other up. And it was a really good way to just kind of set up a lot of feuds. You took shots at a lot of different wrestlers, from Wagner to Vinci to Apollo Crews and Wesley. I thought this was good. I thought everybody did a great job.
I love the barbershop segment. They've been growing on me, and I feel like every week they keep getting better and better. And like you say, they just feel so natural. It almost feels like somebody's just recording them, and that's actually really them, like not recording a segment, just how they hang out. Trek Williams is really growing on me, maybe even more than Carmelo Hayes. I'm worried for Carmelo Hayes, status in my standings right now because I'm really, really liking Trek Williams.
Oh, he's a day one for me. I think he's going to go further on the main roster. I hope Carmelo Hayes is able to overcome all the height kind of prejudices that they have, but I think he can, and I especially think that as long as they stay together and they see the value in them as a team, it'll really help Carmelo too. But I think both guys have potential in WWE.
No, I agree. I'm just like, I just remember where I really, really enjoyed Carmelo's work, and Trek was just like an added bonus, where now I look forward to what Trek has to do, what feud he's on, as much as I do Carmelo's. And it's just like good for him for, like not being a second pairing to Carmelo Hayes, but just feel like just as big of a star as Carmelo Hayes. I heard a lot of conversations this last week in regards to like the Street Profits, for example, and what's going to happen with Anthony Hawkins if they break them up, where it's just like, I want a team that feels like the New Day, that you don't have to break them up in order for them to become big stars on their own. And I feel like these two guys could really do that.
100%. And you could tell Shawn Michaels clearly loves the guy. There's, taking the posing the pictures and stuff like that. Shawn Michaels books the territory, and he's pretty much modeling this tandem as Shawn Michaels and Diesel, where it's because two guys who are both big stars. Yes, exactly. They're the coolest thing on the show.
Yeah, you could be watching NXT completely spaced out. You could miss the unmasking of the Druids, but if Trek Williams and Carmelo Hayes come on, you're gonna stop and you're gonna look at what they're doing, and that's a hard thing to have.
Yeah, and just like Shawn Michaels and Diesel, and I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. He's my favorite of all time. They felt like the coolest thing on the show. Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes have that quality where it's cool to somebody just watching wrestling who doesn't really watch wrestling. That would make wrestling look cooler, I think.
Shawn Michaels is your favorite of all time?
Number one with a gun and a clip of all time.
Wow. Who's your second favorite?
That's tough. You can put The Rock there. Randy Savage, maybe. But I would say The Rock. The Rock is tough. And then we get a little dicey, But who's your favorite of all time?
It's Roman Reigns.
Number one. Okay. That makes sense.
Of all time. Come for me. I don't care. At me. He's going to get ignored.
Of all time. He's the GOAT. He's in my top 15. I'm not, He's somewhere in there.
I feel like Roman has grown on people's list, but being a newer wrestler, it depends. It depends on when you got into it. You know, I always tell
Yeah.
people I grew up watching Lucha Libre from Puerto Rico. I wasn't watching WWF when you guys were falling in love with, like, you know, Shawn Michaels and all of those guys. I'm falling in love with Carlitos Colon, Invader #3. So
Hey.
I got into WWE later on when I was taking my nephews to shows. Therefore, that's why a lot of my answers are newer wrestlers. But it also goes to show you where people say, oh, you know, the newer people are not getting fencing or this or that. I think they are, because not only me, I have met a lot of people that have gotten into it after like 2013, 2014. And that is around the time that I got into it. And listen, Roman Reigns, I've been at day one. But I will say it hurt. The first few years it hurt being a Roman Reigns fan. I was happy, you know, recently because he was there. All the fans were behind him. But now we're getting sabotaged again.
Yeah, and I've always loved Roman Reigns, even when he was that baby face that everybody rejected, quote unquote, because it led to a lot of really heated reactions and matches.
I know.
And, you know, some of these matches, particularly WrestleMania 31, I just felt were made better because of the legitimate animosity toward him.
That's one of my favorite Roman Reigns matches ever. And I actually feel for Roman and Brock because I don't think they ever been able to outlive that particular match. And that's even before the cash-in. Like, they were just, it was such a good, hard-hitting match. Even before Seth Rollins came out, I don't think they ever, maybe the New Orleans one, but the problem is that the crowd was shitting on that match so much that you don't realize. They were going at it. Like, that match was tough. And it's like, if you watch it on mute, you might enjoy it more because the sound of the crowd would ruin that match for you.
Yeah, it actually was, because I remember thinking the same thing when I went back and watched it. Like, this really isn't that bad of a match, but
it's a great match. It's a great match.
These people are just dedicated to they completely ruined it. It was
they did. I was, and I think we talked about this in the podcast before when people were like, "Don't you want to see before Brock came back and everything? Don't you want to see Brock and Roman again?" And I was like, "No, the fans don't deserve it." I didn't think they deserved it because they just crapped all over that match. That I didn't think it was that bad. I think what cursed that match was honestly putting it in the main event spot. I think you would have put that match anywhere else in the card, maybe would have not had that kind of reaction. But regardless, I really think that match was great. And people criticize it because so many finishers got kicked out of, but it's just like, okay, let's watch Dynamite 1 week and count how many finishers get kicked out on. Like, it's WrestleMania. That is the spot where finishers should be kicked out on and people should leave it all out there, you know? So listen, we're going off topic here, but yes, my favorite is Roman Reigns. Your favorite is Shawn Michaels. That's the both.
Yeah, not a bad tandem of wrestlers. We get to the Battle Royal in the main event for NXT. It's a women's Battle Royal. Backstage, we get this promo with the Toxic Attraction and a couple of the women, and they've been building this up throughout the night by having a lot of these promos from the women. Yeah,
I enjoyed them. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Tiffany Stratton's the most.
Yes, hers is really good. I thought
she's growing on me. She's growing on me. She's up there for me now.
Yeah, she's getting really good. And I really like so they did this, and you had referenced this earlier, Issa, that they had the scan code that you're supposed to scan. This week it was kick pads walking, and they did pay this off because the magical person that we've been seeing the scan code was all these weeks, Zoe Stark. Okay. Now, if you follow Wordle and saw what they did, I believe it was last week, they teased that whoever this person was, the letters O and the letter C was in it, and it ended with the letter C. Zoe Stark, the word Stark doesn't have the letter O in it. The word Zoe doesn't have the letter. Stark is a 5-letter word.
That's what I'm saying. As soon as she comes out, and Wayfair was like, "We've been seeing these QR codes," and I was like, "Zoe Starks is not the answer to the worldly puzzle. It's not."
They wasted our time. I think there are people who are spending hours of investigative work trying to figure it out based on the clues that WWE had given them, only for it to be Zoe Stark.
Yeah. And you know what? I am not a fan of WWE. I mean, good for her because she made a comeback and she ended up winning big. But I'm not a fan of matches being won by people that were not announced to me. And I'm like, you just did it at Money in the Bank. And it's just like, there was a lot of contenders in this match that deserved that spot, I guess. I don't know. We'll get into it. But I mean, yeah, it's Zoe Starks. It made no sense. The QR codes made no sense. It almost felt like the battery charging that they did for, who wasn't? Tegan Knox? Remember?
Yes, Tegan Knox.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with how she returned and then she went to the main roster the week after. Like, it's so weird the way they do these things.
Yeah, and I didn't like this payoff. I really was a fan of how they built it up. I thought it was very inventive, and I'm glad that we all went through it together. But to pay it off with, you didn't have to do that last week. It was really as simple as just doing a legitimate clue.
It wasn't that deep.
Kelvin R. Alexander for $5. Tiffany Stratton was a stand-up performer in the Battle Royal. Yes, her story was, they did a great job picking her spots where she was going to eliminate somebody, because that's what she would do, is she would just eliminate one big favorite after another in a cheap way. And I thought she played it off well. Didn't have a great ending to the match, but I thought she was one of the best parts of this match.
Yes, can you excuse me for 1 second? I'll correct the chat. I said I became a WWE fan in 2013, 2014. I've been following wrestling for a long time. I was a fan of wrestlers. 90% of you probably don't know because you guys don't watch the Puerto Rico wrestling team. So I just want to make sure people understand that I've been watching wrestling for a long, long time. It's just when I got into WWE.
Yeah, let them know, Issa. Don't let them go
wrong. Hey, it pisses me off. People calling me a newbie when I'm over here watching Carlitos Colon versus Abdullah the Butcher. You guys don't know about that shit. Come on.
It's a day one. What you know about that Puerto Rican wrestling? World Wrestling Council, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's Capital Sports Promotion. Actually, I was just covering their event, and the event where Ric Flair is coming to is the 49th anniversary of World Wrestling Council. So they're celebrating that. 49 years of it in August, and Flair will be here for it.
How many of you people calling her out in the chat knew that, huh? Just learned something. Look at her teaching everybody.
They don't. They don't know about that life, you know? Anyways, let's talk about the Battle Royal. I absolutely love Tiffany Stratton here. I thought she was the standout performer. I was disappointed at Nikita Lyons' performance here. Yeah, she made it pretty far, but I didn't feel like she stood out in the match. Did you?
No, not at all. I thought that it wasn't until she really got eliminated that she really, oh no, Nikita Lyons is gone. And then of course they did this whole Final Four to where they kind of coaxed the fans into giving them an ovation and chanting NXT. And the Final Four was Stratton, Nikita Lyons, James, and Stark.
Yeah. A lot of the eliminations felt very uneventful. Like I was watching this, I was invested, but I couldn't tell you how Ivy Nile got eliminated, and that's somebody that I have my eye on. Like a lot of it felt, I don't know, like they missed it. I don't know, I missed it. It just didn't feel like it was a big deal until it came down to those Final Four. It was a great Final Four. I was not expecting Zoe Stark to win, if I'm being honest with you. I thought it was going to be Nikita. I thought it was going to be Tiffany. But I have a feeling one of them will probably take the belt off of Mandy when they finally get to the spot. I thought the Cora Jade elimination was the funniest freaking thing I've seen in a long time.
Yes, it came down to Tiffany Stratton and Zoe Stark. And Tiffany Stratton had kind of a tough time getting to the ring with skin the cat and then kind of tripped around. And it's funny because the announcing tried to cover by saying, oh, the fatigue of this battle royal. Or really what she was doing, she was just hiding the whole time and like pouncing on people. She wasn't doing much other than being an opportunist. But just to add a couple of rough spots, but did get eliminated. And then Cora Jade came running through the crowd to go after Zoe Stark, who Zoe Stark did eliminate Cora Jade.
Yeah, I that was so freaking funny. I literally laughed out loud when she eliminated Cora Jade. I was a little heartbroken when she eliminated Tiffany Stratton, but listen, if you're gonna have somebody come back and make a big deal about it, then hopefully, you know, they do something here with Zoe Stark. Another one that I'm worried about is our girl Lash Legend. She keeps getting these big opportunities and doing nothing with them. I liked her backstage promo, but you know, she wasn't. I have a feeling she's gonna go into a feud with Alba Fry. Did you hear
Mandy Rose? It happens to the best of us.
I know I laughed, Alba Fry. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I like the Battle Royal. Women main eventing. It was fun. I really, really shout out to Tiffany Stratton. That's what, if I got to take one thing away tonight, is that Tiffany Stratton is as great as I think in my brain she is. She had a little bit of a hard time, like you said, here or there, but she looked great.
Alba Fry needs to call her Mindy Rose now. That should be their whole
Mindy Rose and Alba Fry.
We've got a couple of super chats from Allison Tuckwell for $4.99. Does Eric Bischoff work with WWE behind the curtains with live shows? No, he does not. He was put in as kind of a figurehead as the executive director, I believe, of SmackDown. And then
Yeah.
that fell apart really quickly. But
It's Jeff Jarrett. No, isn't he the one that's running the live shows now?
yes,
No.
Vice President of Live Events, Jeff Jarrett, and he's going to be wrestling.
Jeff Jarrett is so popular. Like so I had no idea that he's gonna be the special guest referee at SummerSlam, and now he's gonna be at Ric Flair's final match. Like, this man is like, talk about forbidden door. Jeff Jarrett is breaking them all.
I would have loved if the QR code ended up being Jeff Jarrett. Just
he's getting get that bag. Get that bag, Jeff Jarrett.
That Jeff Jarrett is securing all kinds of bags. Hey, let's not forget about this when we're talking about year-end awards. When we give the Securing That Bag award, we gotta keep getting them checks award goes to Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett.
Yep. Yes, it does.
More from Alison Tuckwab, putting Raj the Kids Through College with 1999. Sorry, I messed up. Excuse my message. Just to apologize.
It's all good. Don't apologize. We appreciate you, Alison.
Yeah, very much, Alison. Thank you very much.
Look at Kelvin. I love that.
WC, one of the bloodiest territories I've seen. It really is.
The hardcore, if you guys know your research, but I'm a newbie, but if you do your research, the very first place where foreign objects were introduced in a wrestling match was Puerto Rico. But, I don't know anything about wrestling, right? But anyways, it was in WWC, and it was actually a baseball bat. The first barbed wire match, I believe happened here, not exploding barbed wire. They put barbed wire around the ring. Anyways, you kids wouldn't know about that stuff.
And I would love if Von Wagner and Solo Sikoa started just brawling through the Puerto Rican wrestling matches.
I would love to see it. I might run into that. Have you not seen your girls being booked and busy covering all the events here?
Absolutely, here, everywhere.
Like, I'm trying to get to Jeff Jarrett's level. So I'm over here. I'm on Lucha Libre Online. I'm on my YouTube. I'm on all the wrestling events. Listen, Jeff Jarrett ain't got shit on me.
Hey, Jeff Jarrett, you're gonna come for some of his bags. It looks like securing everybody. But that's the show tonight. What'd you think of the show as a whole, Isa?
I have fun watching NXT tonight. It was it must-watch television? No, nothing happened that I would say you have to go and watch this. But overall, it was enjoyable. It was watchable, and that's all I asked for.
Yeah, I thought this was a good follow-up from last week. Some stuff hit, some didn't, but I really did like a lot of the bigger stories that they're telling, and they did a good job with Cora Jade. I think that she shows promise as a heel. I hope that she's able to gel into this role, and they don't keep rushing it, and they're able to eventually tell a story.
I think NXT is a lot more enjoyable than what people give it credit for.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It's far from perfect, but it's an enjoyable show, and people are not enough people are giving it a chance.
That is a life lesson. Just lower your expectations a little bit. You'll be surprised, and you might love.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I always expect the worst. That's why sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised. I go to everything, not just wrestling, everything in life, expecting the worst. And every once in a while,
I completely agree. Every morning I wake up and the world isn't on fire, it's a good day.
Oh, every morning I wake up and I say, this day is going to be shit. And that way, if it's a good day, it's great.
You build up from that. There you go. Alison Tuckwell again. Sorry that I messed my message up next twice. When things mellow out, you think they'll bring Vince McMahon's DVD documentary out.
I think it's going to depend on what the findings are. If he's found guilty, he's not going to allow them to make a documentary about him because that will have to be brought out, right? But I have a feeling that if he's able to swipe this under the rug, he's going to pay all these companies to put out a documentary so that everybody knows that he's not a creep.
Regardless of what comes out of this, and I think when eventually they do make this movie, then the facts aren't going to change them for telling this story. They'll come out not guilty. They'll discredit him. They'll make it seem like a bunch of succubuses came for him. They'll do anything they can to make it look like, oh no, they were up against Vince, and poor Vince had his back against the wall.
Honestly, but who cares? With all these biopics that they're making recently and they're bending the truth so much, they might have a whole different case on him in the documentary because even films that are considered documentary are not telling full truths nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. We live in multiple different realities. And
we live in a society.
All too happy to exploit that. Exactly. Did we really just go... Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we read that one already.
Yes, I do think that we are going to see a Vince McMahon documentary at some point. Who knows about what or from whom, but who knows? Who knows how this all goes, maybe within the next 10 years. But, there's a lot of more important issues at hand in terms of this entire story. But That's Tuesday night on NXT. We'll be back. Issa's back tomorrow for the Wednesday night AEW Dynamite podcast. We'll be back on Friday. Hopefully, the three best friends can reunite then.
But, I don't know what's going on with our schedule. Something is up. We just can't sync up,
We're building to the big reunion, and it's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be great. I'm going to wear some sequin or something.
There we go. We can't be NXT just rush through all these storylines. We got to build to our reunion.
Okay.
Issa, NYC Demon Diva. I'm Alfred Konuwa. This is Nasty. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.